Welcome everyone. We have a great group here today. It looks like the pie thing was pretty interesting. We'll have to exchange some recipes on that. We have two presenters today, Margaret Mooney and Vicky Gorman. And they are going to talk about the GOES Virtual Science Fair, which I'm really excited. So thank you to our NASA Langley partners too for bringing this to our attention and helping us to share this information with all of you. This is being recorded. So even though we are 18 in number right now, we could also reach many more people in the next couple weeks when we post this. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Margaret Mooney. And if you want to start, and then make sure you throw in your favorite pie. So wait, Vicky, do you want to share your favorite pie while we're still on the pie thing?
Sure. Boston cream pie. And I'm Vicky Gorman from New Jersey. I teach at Medford Memorial Middle School. And I'm down more in the southern part of New Jersey, close to Philadelphia.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And with that, I will send it over to Margaret, and we're really excited to hear about this. So thank you, Margaret, for being with us and sharing.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, everyone, for joining. I'm Margaret Mooney. I'm talking to you from Madison, Wisconsin. My favorite pie is the one that I'm eating. Thank you for no one taking that one. I'm going to talk about the GOES-16, GOES-17 Virtual Science Fair. So here's the building where I work. You can see all the satellite dishes on top. I work at a NOAA Cooperative Institute, and it's the one for satellite studies. So you can imagine that we are very excited about all the next generation satellites that have been launched, both the geostationary, the GOES, and there's been some pretty exciting polar orbiting satellites that have been launched too. So the science fair that I'm talking about is the geostationary satellites, and it has to do with a series of 4 satellites: GOES-R, GOES-S, GOES-T, and GOES-U. These satellites orbit the Earth above the equator and look at the same part of the Earth all the time. So it's our best way to watch the weather. These new satellites have all these different instruments on them. And the science fair that I'm talking about, we're only really dealing with the instruments that look at Earth. And so they're the 2 lowest ones. And the main one is really the Advanced Baseline Imager. This is the one where we get imagery of Earth. And the other one is the Geostationary Lightning Mapper. So GOES-R was launched on November 19th, 2016. Now, November 19th is also Vicky Gorman's birthday, and she was at the launch. How about that? Have you guys ever done that for your birthday? So Vicky was there. That was pretty exciting. And this satellite is now our operational GOES-East satellite. Then a year later, we launched the GOES-S satellite, and it is now our operational GOES-West satellite. The way it works is satellites go up with a letter, and then when they're in orbit, they get a number, and then sometimes they become our operational satellites. And that's the status with GOES-R and GOES-S. Well, GOES-T is launching this year, December 7th right now, so stay tuned. Here's a satellite image where we combine the view from both GOES-East and GOES-West. And you can see basically 2/3 of the Earth. So prior to the launch of these 2 satellites, we started an educational group for teachers called the GOES-R Education Proving Ground. It was myself and mainly my colleague, Tim Smith, who works for NOAA. He works in the same building that I do. And then Vicky and 5 other teachers. We developed lesson plans. We developed HTML5 web apps. We did webinars. We were quite active prior to the launch of those satellites. But now that these satellites are in orbit and collecting data, we're thinking, how can we get students to use the data? So we decided to start a virtual science fair. And of course, we have a web page. Here are the first year submissions. I mean, these are the top ones. I mean, we had 9 submissions from 5 high schools and 4 middle schools. And we were pretty pleased with that, but we plan to grow it, right, with future years. So then the next year was 2020. And we all know what happened then. We had the pandemic and teachers were basically slammed, and many participants said they weren't able to participate or to formally engage their students, I should say. But we did have, I think, about a half a dozen submissions. And one way that we made that happen was we revised the virtual science fair. We made it a little bit easier. We put a few more resources online. So currently there's a template that students can use. You can look at the scoring rubric before you even start your project. It's always a good way to succeed at almost anything is see what you might get graded on. But we simplified the scoring rubric too for 2020, and we're going to keep that moving forward. Those are online if you or your students want to join the science fair. We also created this short module so that students could, if they wanted to, participate remotely. So it's only 7 pages long. And since these satellites have been in orbit for a while, there's some fabulous videos from NOAA and NASA and private companies that develop instruments for the satellites. And they're all in this online module. So a student can enter entirely alone by just doing this module first. So now I want to share some ideas that you might engage your students with. You could just be a weather forecast. And then another one is to pick a case from the CIMSS Satellite blog and put it in your own words. Another one would be make a hypothesis about a natural hazard and then analyze it with multiple ABI bands. And Vicky's going to talk more about this. Leverage a GLOBE investigation, especially the satellite matches where there's data already online. So one way to just look at the weather forecast and use it for a GOES virtual science fair, I think, is follow your local National Weather Service office on Twitter. They are constantly sharing satellite imagery. They talk about the bands they are using, and they track a storm before, during, and after. I feel like this could be a great virtual science fair project. I mentioned the CIMSS Satellite blog. These are kind of high-level case studies of weather events, but they feature a lot of GOES satellite imagery often, and could also be kind of retold in the student's own perspective for the virtual science fair. And NASA GLOBE. And Vicki, I think this is pretty much where you're taking over, right?
Yep. So if you want to stop sharing,
okay,
then
thanks.
I'll go ahead and share. Great. And here we are. And share. And let me come back up to this one. And do that. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see that now. So here's one way. Oh, first of all, hello, I'm Vicky Gorman. I guess you would call me the lead educator for the GOES Education Proving Ground. I've been working with the project since almost its inception, and or pretty much its inception, I guess, as far as the Education Proving Ground. So here's an excellent way that you can incorporate NASA GLOBE clouds along with the GOES project and the GOES Virtual Science Fair. So you can use the clouds data that's available. You can also do your own data observations and use that. But if you go to down here where it says Cool Home Student Project Support, and of course, use these as a catalyst, your kids could find all they need to participate in the GLOBE VSF. So I would absolutely recommend that you look at it. It's a wonderful program. NASA has done an amazing job populating it. And most of you guys, at least those people that I'm familiar with, know all about it already. But it's even better. Yay. Another place that you can go to, and this is a little unknown corner of the GLOBE website, and it's being updated right now. It was put on here by John Moore, and most of you know John, when he was the GLOBE Distinguished Educator Fellow. And it's the Global Weather Watchers, and it's never really taken off, and I'm not sure why, because it's a really great idea. So once again, it needs to be updated, but if you're teachers or if you're doing it with students, if you look at it, you can get a really, really, like it spurs ideas as to what exactly to do for the virtual science fair. Yeah, students can do ground weather observations with cloud observations. They bring newscasts into it, anecdotal stories from people who are actually on the ground looking at these weather events that are happening, satellite and radar comparisons, and then of course using the GOES-16-17 data. So I would encourage all of you, the link of course is down here at the bottom. I would encourage all of you to take a look at that. Even without it being 100% updated right now, it still will give you a lot of ideas what to use for the virtual science fair. I did want to point this out. This was the GOES-R launch countdown calendar. So this was done in 2016. But again, for your teachers, for those of you who work with teachers, or if you're a teacher yourself, this is one of the resources that's on the CIMSS website that Margaret was talking about. And it's really kind of cool because what it does, and this is week 1. It was a countdown calendar to the launch, and it gave teachers something to do every day that would also bring the students closer to a better understanding of satellites, and specifically weather satellites and the geostationary satellite. So if teachers go through this, they can find a lot of resources that will allow them to present information in a very understandable way to their students, so that when they do the VSF, they not only just think they're doing a research project, but they truly understand what they're talking about, which of course is really important. So why do your students want to be part of the VSF? Well, let me tell you, from the mouths of students, let us do science like scientists do. In 2020, I was fortunate enough to bring 3 middle school students to the American Meteorological Society centennial meeting. It was the first time that middle school students had ever talked and presented at an AMS meeting. And basically their message was very clear. Like I said, let us do science like scientists do. And the reason they came to that conclusion is because they were involved with the virtual science fair. I'm not so sure they would have done it otherwise. So the VSF, what did it do? You can read it there. Motivated the students to help people. They learned authentic problem solving skills. It improved their work ethic. That it did, I can attest to that. They entered real world data into a global database, which was the GLOBE connection, because that was one of the requirements I made, that there had to be a GLOBE connection. They learned from mistakes, and they also got to collaborate with professionals. And when I said to them, what do you want to talk to the AMS audience about? They said about this, because we're tired of doing, now they didn't use the word contrived, but I will. They're tired of doing contrived lessons in the classroom that mean nothing. They might be fun to do, but they're not something that really is going to prepare them for life or a science life, or just a regular life, with the critical thinking skills that you use when you have to do something like the virtual science fair or do GLOBE projects and gather GLOBE data. So that's why your students should do it. Again, for you guys, I'm preaching to the choir. But for those of you at home who might watch this as a recording, this is something you really, really want to do. Now, this slide is for teachers. So here I was the first year that I did the VSF. Because I did it with a challenge class, I made the mistake of saying, okay, we're going to do 6 weeks of research, and we're going to put this together. And then the kids buy into all this. And then they're like, well, we want someone to help us put a video together and all this other stuff. And I really was frazzled. I enjoyed it. It was wonderful. but I was a little bit frazzled. So now this year, I'm taking more of that approach. And I think that I'm going to stick with that approach. So what I did this year was, out of my 4 science classes, I took my 2 classes that I knew would be capable of working on their own. And I said, okay, we're going to do this. You can do it as individuals, because I teach students at home and in school, and we're not in school full time. You can do it as partners, or you can do it in a group of 3. And I'm not going to go crazy, and I'm not going to worry about, other than that they have some sound scientific concepts. But the VSF, even though it's high profile, it is so amenable to students learning and having a good time that there's no stress, and there shouldn't be any stress. It should just be a lot of fun. And the kids just immediately bought into it when I said GLOBE, NOAA, and NASA. It was like, those were the key words, ding, 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 you know, you win $1 million. So anyway, just keep that in mind and say some ums and do some yoga poses, because this is going to be fun for you. So just to wrap up and to give you some last minute information, we're accepting projects until May 22nd, and we're open now. So if you're already ahead of the game, you can certainly go ahead and submit now. Students work as individuals with partners, and I put in groups of 3. Margaret had small groups. I don't think, Margaret, there would be a real issue if there was a group of 4. You know, I don't think that's a real problem. But certainly I think individuals, partners, or groups of 3 is applicable to this COVID situation. The main requirement, that you're using data from GOES-16 or GOES-17 to investigate weather and natural hazards. And remember, it's weather, severe weather, but GOES also monitors wildfires, monitors areas that are flooding, or monitors the precipitation, so that you can talk about mudslides and other sorts of natural hazards as well. So it's a good thing to give your kids those options. In addition, there will be 3 winning teams or individuals, 1 from middle school, 1 from high school, and then 1 from grades 13 through 14, which could be a community college, or it could be those 2 grades from a university. The winning teams, will receive a $25 gift card, which my kids absolutely adored, and official GOES-T launch viewing invitations to KSC. No travel support, unfortunately, but just having the official invite is pretty amazing. And you don't just get one for you as a student, you get additional ones. I think it's up to 3 or 4 so you could have members of your family if you wanted to. And then teachers coaching the winning teams also will get launch invites. Again, no travel support, but it's still a wonderful, wonderful time. So having said that, there you go. That's our basic information. I just want to thank personally the GOES-R program and Margaret and the University of Wisconsin. I've had a blast working with this program, and I just encourage all of you to get in on it this year, especially with the way COVID is, the way COVID has made our teaching situation. Like I tell my students, don't feel sad that you've learned through COVID. Let's look and see of the opportunities that you have that you might not otherwise have had. And this is one of those things that perhaps you might not have been able to do if you had a strict curriculum. But this year, since there's perhaps a little bit more leeway, and it doesn't take that long, you know, you can make it as long as you want. And I'll turn it over to Margaret for final words.
Thanks so much, Vicki. That was great. I'm sure all of you can see why this program is becoming successful. It's Vicki, basically. So having people like Vicki on the team. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that all of the lead projects from the past 2 years, their videos are online, their posters are online. And I think if you just watch their videos, I think the student videos are amazing. Then you'll get a sense, you know, that your students can do it because the students have it in them. So thanks, anyone. Any questions?
And if you want to raise your hand or chime in.
This is from Legacy Bridge STEM Academy. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm good, thank you. We're working with Cheney University, and they have a whole weather, I guess you call it center. And we're building a pre-college to college and career readiness pipeline. And they're going to be helping us. Or is the information that you share in our middle school and high school students, is that appropriate?
Margaret, did you hear that? I'm
It
unfortunately.
went in and out, but I think it's appropriate for middle and high school students because they've been using it. I think the
Okay.
question was, is it appropriate for middle and high school? That's who it's aimed at.
Dr. Joy, you may just want to, you just may want to shut off your camera. We might be able to hear what you're saying a little bit more if your camera was off.
I turned it off. Cheney University is a attracting middle to high school students. Is this a good to share with Cheney, who is helping us develop for weather? I guess that's your question.
It's still hard to hear you. I'm sorry.
I'm going to say, if you were saying, is it okay that the middle school and high school students work with the university on the VSF? Was that what maybe you were saying? That would be, of course, no problem. And that would be something that would be encouraged.
Great. I'm trying to say.
Okay, good. Now, if only I could understand my husband that well when he talks to me.
Other questions or
So,
comments?
yeah, it can be shared so that I could share it with team.
I just shared the link to the virtual science fair. All the guidelines, the rubrics, the past winners, the deadline, and where to submit projects.
Oh, great. Thank you.
GOES-T launched December 7th. It's going to be exciting.
And you guys, for any of your teachers, even though my email was not on the slide deck, you can just contact Margaret, and of course she'll be able to answer any questions. But if you want a teacher's perspective, she'll just put you in touch with me. So if you have any teachers that have any questions at all or need any help, I'm always here to help.
I don't know if any of the clouds team wants to chime in here about the relationship between clouds and GOES 16. Is it 16, 17? Is that what how they say it? Okay. So I don't know if you want to say anything particular. Make an advertisement. I'm offering you the floor to say what you want to say because you're the ones that brought this to me.
Sure. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. And thank you so much, Margaret and Vicky. That was amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, just a reminder that with clouds, we're already matched to the GOES satellites. So this is a win-win for everybody. And talking to Margaret, we realized that in GLOBE, those satellite matches are one of the few ways that you can go and get the GOES data past a few weeks. And so it's really hard to collect those images unless you're collecting it right when they're happening or they're posted somewhere. But all that GLOBE's data, since we've started thanks to Tina Rogerson matching to go 16 and 17, they're out there. And so Angie Reese worked really hard on making smaller data sets that are available on the student project support page on Globe Clouds. And they're available as Excel sheets or Google Sheets as well. So we've tried to clean it up and make it easier for all of you as well. Thank you, Jennifer.
This is Angie. I'll add the data set that I made for this was like a week, I think, in September that included some hurricanes off in the east and wildfire stuff out in the west. So I tried to pick some data that was going to have some interesting topics related to these projects.
That's great. And I see John wrote that the GOES data set is useful and he's been using them for his classes. And so, John, that's a community college. So your students could actually be able to enter any projects they do into this science fair, it sounds like, too.
I'd like to
Margaret?
chime in and say that we have not had submission either of the first 2 years from grades 13 or 14. I would love to have a community college enter. And if nobody's submitting them at this point, just think about your chances for winning. The other ones are more populated, but nothing from those grades.
I'm also
So-
working here in Massachusetts trying to get vocational schools involved. It's a vocational high schools, but they are often underserved, and majority of students there, they are from families that, let's just put it this way, they on a limited budget over there. So I'm trying to do my best to help vocational schools, and this is fantastic opportunity. Thank you.
We had another question. What's the highest latitude for GOES data?
What is the latitude of like the Arctic Circle? It's very high. It gets less, slightly less resolution toward the poles. I don't know the highest, I'm sorry, it's super high. But they cannot see the very tip or the very south pole of the Earth.
It's in the high 80s, I believe, although like Margaret said, the higher you get because of the angle, the data gets a bit distorted. But if you're from Alaska, you would be able to use the data unless you were from some remote town that was like really close to the pole itself.
Oh, Vicki, I'm so glad that you pointed out to me basically that this is an inquiry from Alaska. So I mentioned the polar orbiting satellites, and we just got funding for a JPSS virtual science fair with the polar orbiting satellites.
Yay!
So that'll be launched soon. But that'll be perfect for Alaska and the poles and the whole Earth, but they get like 5 times the coverage of the poles. That's another topic.
That's great. That's exciting.
I think
Thank
this
you.
time next year, it's just going to be a NOAA. I know that NASA is that GLOBE is a big NASA project, but I think it's probably just going to be a NOAA satellite virtual science fair with the GOES as one category and the JPSS as the other.
Well, we're definitely supported by NOAA. And we have some NOAA employees that have been past GLOBE employees. So we have a strong connection to NOAA for sure.
So, and the GOES program is a NOAA NASA program. It's not just the one. And NASA launches the satellites and NOAA operates them. It's all a teamwork thing.
Which is a good lesson across interagency collaboration. And I have actually, when I first joined GLOBE a long time ago, I was introduced to the GOES satellite in a second grade classroom whose the students gave me a tour of the work they were doing. So this was a
Wow.
long time ago. I've been with GLOBE for a long time. So this is in the 90s. So I don't know what version of GOES that was, but it was really cool because second graders were, they could point out weather on the satellite. So it was very cool. All right. Any other questions? You're a quiet group today. It's very different. Who are you behaving for?
Hi, can you hear me by chance?
Yes. Yep,
Okay,
John,
great.
go
Hi,
ahead.
Jennifer. Hi, John here. So I just kind of want to add just to add a little bit here. I kind of unfortunately came in late. I had another meeting that kind of overlapped, but I just want to let you know that also just in addition to some of the stuff that, with this, with getting the data out with clouds and the dust and whatnot is also kind of helpful because, like I said, I employed it with some of the classes that I teach. Not only does it help with the physics and understanding, bringing that into the classroom, like with physical processes and also looking at chemical processes for those people who are also teaching chemistry and those who are also doing, geology, especially geology. But I thought it was really interesting when I tied it into astronomy because we got to use this as a way of getting the students outside and then comparing them, like, say, dust storms on Mars or whatnot. And so those are kind of things that there was like a lab that I kind of created that helped bring in, analogs, planetary analogs that helped a lot. And I think also some of the stuff that we're doing here, along with the students that I'm teaching, we're also uploading a lot of that data, and that's going to be presented also at a workshop in Arizona, just as an FYI, to kind of show that, hey, GLOBE can participate and help with not only with public health issues, but also getting people involved in knowing more about their environment and whatnot. So it's been a very promising and I think a good goal because they love getting those emails saying this is what the GOES satellite. I mean, I get pumped up still. I mean, this is cool. So I mean, but the students, I kid you not, especially the astronomy students, they're a lot more invigorated when they see these emails and they say, "Oh my God, that is an actual satellite that actually is going over at the time I was taking this picture." And I said, "Yeah, look at the infrared, look at the pictures," and then we study it, and it's a great thing when we talk about electromagnetism in the classroom and whatnot. And I think it's starting to grow now, and hopefully in the fall we'll try to even expand it to a much broader base as well there at the community college where I'm at.
That is great. Yes, I completely echo Madeleine. That is really exciting. And I love the chemistry and physics connections because I think that is so important and something that we don't talk about enough with GLOBE, and those connections to chemistry and physics. So
there is, and I think it's great since GLOBE is also very interdisciplinary approach to learning, I guess, for a lot of the students from K through 12 and even where I'm at the college realm. I think it really just kind of, especially like right now, like I can go outside right now and tell you that we're about to hit another dust storm in about probably a couple hours, because I mean that's where I'm at. We're in the Chihuahuan Desert, and that's kind of that's like a major focus right now. And I think for study. But I think, it's like you get to see fluid dynamics, thermodynamics, you get to employ, electromagnetism when you look at the GOES satellite, chemistry, the chemists, they start to look at, atmospheric chemistries, just basic stuff, obviously. And then obviously geology, in which, the land connection, whether you want to talk about planetary boundary layers or whatever, they can go into, into depth at various levels. But I mean, it's been phenomenal, especially, like I said, all like the science group, they love it, but the ones who get super excited with the satellites, that just kind of gives you, it's like, hey, look, the satellites imagery that we see here on Earth, you can get an idea or take an imagination, use your imagination of imagine, and just take a look at the data also it's being coming out of Mars too. So it's like comparing the two, and it really gets them involved. And I've actually had some students a handful of students have actually switched their majors into a science related field. I think most of them were actually going more toward like geology, chemistry. They're still a little intimidated with physics, but I'm trying to fix that. But for the most part, yeah, they've been really, really, I guess, open to that. And I think eventually once the whole pandemic gets over, we'll try to expand it also to like workshops, and they take it to our early college students, which are in the high schools, and we're trying to even, basically have more effective outreach that way as well. So there's a lot of plans going on right now that I'm in line with my dean, my boss over here at El Paso Community College. So, and some of the colleagues over there at UTEP as well. So a lot of exciting stuff.
I just want to ask Margaret one thing. John, you sort of made me think of a couple things. One is that we need to start doing all this type of studying in middle school, so by the time they get to community college, they can do this. But Margaret, the competition still grades 6 and up, right? We don't accept elementary school right now. Okay, because I know that that's important, and I know that GLOBE has a whole elementary program, and that of course might be something that is looked to in the future, but I just don't want any elementary teachers getting all excited about it and then not being able to do it.
Thank you, John. This is Larissa. Thank you for sharing, and we all can really excited together with you. You're so enthusiastic about this. This is wonderful. Question for all of you, since I mentioned vocational schools, please, if you remember, and I remember Sarah mentioned a couple examples, if you have any prior experience working with vocational schools, I'll send my email in the chat. I would appreciate learning from you. Thank you.
Any other questions? And John, have you met Mike Jabot up there? Because, well, he's in the top left of my screen, because he's physics too. So we have a couple like physics people that you should really meet for sure.
Your physics people are usually not only the smartest, but also the best looking of the group usually. So that's what
I concur.
Thanks, John. I hope you would.
Of course.
Larissa, when you talk about VOTEC, are you talking about like high school?
High school, yeah.
Okay, do you know John Moore by any chance?
Yeah, I was overseeing Albert Einstein fellowship when I was in Washington, D.C., and John was at that time under that program. Yep.
Because he taught in VOTEC for his whole career. So if you have questions for him, or if you need, whatever,
sure,
he might be a good one for you to get in touch to.
That's very good. Yeah, as always, you look for some far distant contact, and the answer is right there in front of you. Yes, that's me. Yeah, of course, I will ask John. But anyway, if you have if you have prior experience working with current experience working with vocational schools, that's one of our to-do. Sort of, we are very committed to help those who are in need in those schools. Thank you.
I just wanted to add, I really appreciate, again, Margaret and Vicky for doing this presentation. And for those of you that are thinking about doing this with Globe Clouds data and you have questions about either what's on the student project support page or just looking at your own data, feel free to reach out to us. And so us would be myself, Marile, and Angie. We're happy to help you either take a look at the satellite matches that you've been receiving, or just looking at the data viz to help you find some of the stuff that you need for your project. So feel free to reach out.
Thank you, everyone. Especially, I'll just echo what Jessica said, but thank you to Margaret and Vicky for presenting. It was great. It really, really was great. And especially all these opportunities for students that are virtual, that reach more people than traveling someplace is a great thing to keep talking about, especially hopefully with the motivation behind making sure the Wi-Fi internet is accessible to more and more people. things like this will become, I think, more and more accessible as well. So thank you very much for sharing this opportunity. And I love the link between GLOBE and this. It's really, it's special when, again, we have NOAA and NASA working together with a satellite, and we see that actually happening here with GLOBE and this science fair. And then students are able to kind of do two things at once, study really cool weather things, and also GLOBE with its history of this local studies, kind of bringing it to the global studies, right, with the satellite and looking at the bigger pictures that we're getting, or images from that too. So, and always thank you very much to the GLOBE Clouds team for supporting all of the students and partners that they do too.